My stepmother has the most audacity you could ever imagine. She wants me to share my father's inheritance with my step-siblings after they refused to save his life. Hello, people. I'm 30 female and I have a dilemma to share with you. You can call me OP because I wish to remain anonymous. There's a lot of background information to go over with you all, and I'd appreciate any advice or supportive comments I could get. Things have been all messed up lately, due to the recent unfortunate passing of my father. The man dealt with illness and so much stress throughout his life that a small part of me is actually relieved he's in a better place now. But of course, my grief is still immeasurable. You see, my father and my biological brother Woodrow are truly the only people on this planet I consider my true family. And now with my father gone, it's just me and Woodrow against everybody. I do have a so-called family, of course, but I barely even consider them as such, but more on that in a moment. You see, my father left 80% of his fortune to me and the rest of the fortune to go to the rest of the family as you see fit. You would expect getting control of such a large sum of money to be a cause for celebration, but with my dysfunctional family being the way it is, keep on dreaming. My stepmom Beatrice barely gave me time to grieve before she began pestering me about the inheritance money. You know, it would only be fair to your stepbrothers if you cut them in on the inheritance too. They were very kind to you and your father, said Beatrice. Yeah, all I could do was hold my tongue and be polite to this loopy old lady. That's just one of my many examples of that kind of insensitive remarks and behavior Beatrice exhibits. I should probably go ahead and tell you guys about my stepbrothers, Todd and Gilbert. Boy, are those two real pieces of work. First, my stepmother's assessment that Todd and Gilbert were in any kind of way, kind to my father, is one of the boldest lies ever told. I don't know how Beatrice could say that in good conscience, and those two were always rude and demanding to my poor old father, and he was such a kind soul, he just kept on spoiling them. Todd and Gilbert would always get up to no good, playing pranks on my poor father like covering his office in toilet paper and other immature things like that. And that's not even to speak of the tortures Todd and Gilbert inflicted upon me and my poor little brother Woodrow when we were young. Todd and Gilbert were older than Woodrow and me, but that did not stop them from making our lives a living hell. You see, their father died in a quicksand accident, so I think all their lashing out at us was their twisted way of working through the grief. But that did not excuse what they did to us. Todd and Gilbert used to beat the crap out of me and Woodrow, and they would make messes and break stuff and blame me and Woodrow. My father, always believed us, but Beatrice insisted on punishing us for whatever happened anyways, even though it was always Todd and Gilbert behind whatever just happened. Then, as soon as my father was busy with his work and Beatrice was out shopping and getting drunk, which were her favorite hobbies and still are, Todd and Gilbert would get right back to beating me and Woodrow senselessly or, push us down into ant hills while we were outside playing. I could go on all day about the bad behavior Woodrow and I put up with just because there are far worse things to share than that, but I'll spare you the details to make this a tad more brief. You see, Todd and Gilbert were already rotten when my father married Beatrice. Nowadays, all Todd and Gilbert seem to do is get drunk, buy drugs, sit around the house and listen to awful rap music. They keep trying to be rappers. It's pathetic. That's why they refuse to get a job. I mean, come on, 36 and 33 years of age, and they still think they can make it as a rapper? They still live at my father's house. They never cook, never clean, never pick up after themselves. It's almost like they were born bad. I'll never understand what my father saw in Beatrice or why he allowed those rotten boys to move in with us. I know he was lonely about the loss of my mother. We lost my kind and beautiful mother in an accident. She was killed by polar bears while on an Arctic exhibition when I was a little girl. My mother was a woman I could look up to, someone I could be proud of and model my life after. I cruelly had her taken away from me and replaced by someone who could barely boil a pot of water. Beatrice would, totally emasculate my father, scream, pitch a fit, and cry. He was so kind-hearted, but I often regret seeing him act as a doormat so much. I wish I'd stepped in, but out of respect for my father, I often held my tongue on these matters. It stung me and filled me with rage to see him bullying Beatrice and, a new handbag whenever she would throw a tantrum. I remember one time Woodrow stood up for my father amidst an argument between him and Beatrice, and Todd immediately punched Woodrow in the face for, quote, disrespecting his mother. My father tried to ground Todd for the transgression, but as soon as my father wasn't around, Beatrice would let Todd get back to whatever he wanted to do, and Beatrice was and still is that textbook narcissist. If you look up jerk in the dictionary, you'll likely see a picture of Beatrice. I could almost forgive all the abuse and torment Woodrow and I have suffered at the hands of these terrible people. I'd almost turn the other cheek and dismiss Beatrice's misbehavior as a result of her pampered and spoiled upbringing. I could dismiss Todd and Gilbert bullying tendencies as a way of covering up the holes in their hearts left by the passing of their father. I could cast all this nonsense out of my mind and let live, and move on. It's not been for one thing. Okay, you see. A few years ago, my father was nearly at death's door. He had always been in poor health, exacerbated by the horrible grief and tragedy that he had to endure in his life, as well as the immense levels of stress that he dealt with at work and his bratty wife and bratty stepchildren all the time. My father had an illness and required a new kidney. Here's the thing. Todd and Gilbert were perfect matches. We had a family meeting at Applebee's to discuss my father's illness, and I said quite bluntly to Todd and Gilbert that one of them should donate their kidney to my father. They were older, they owed more to my father due to their mistreatment of him, and just the sheer fact that my father was kind enough to marry Beatrice and let them live there. I told them they owed my father that kidney, for all the times that they abused me and Woodrow. Despite all my pleas, Beatrice told me to shut my trap. Todd and Gilbert told me that they would, quote, deck me into next week if I spoke to them that way again. The three clowns were drunk as skunks, knocking back margaritas like they were going out of style. Can you imagine using this meeting as a chance to get drunk? They did not care about my father. Well, the short conversation that happened was something like this. Todd casually speaks and he says, "Everyone dies, OP, just get over it." And Gilbert supported him and said, "Yeah, Todd's right. Why should we donate a kidney just so your father can live for like 5 more years? He should be happy he lived as long as he did." I had tears in my eyes, and I asked them, "How could you say that? How could you be so heartless? I guess I'll have to donate my kidney to my father myself." Well, they all had a problem with that as well. They did not want to donate a kidney, but they were giving me grief and immediately telling me not to donate my kidney as soon as I mentioned doing it. Can you guys even believe that? It almost seemed to me as if these people just wanted to get my father out of the way ASAP so they could get a chance to grab some of his money. I was appalled by their behavior. I saw these people for who they truly were that day, and I had my suspicions before, but that event was permanently what drove the wedge between me and Woodrow and the rest of the family. What other choice did I have? I donated my kidney to keep my father alive, and he was all I had besides Woodrow. I didn't tell my father that Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert had regarded his near-fatal illness as merely a flippant excuse to get drunken at Applebee's. I knew such a hard truth would break his heart. Occasionally, I wish I'd told him what was going on, behind his back, but I knew it was important to him to continue living in this fantasy world. I think deep down, my father knew the truth about Beatrice and her rotten sons. He just did not want to be alone. Things were never quite the same after I donated my kidney to my father. Living in the same house and watching my father still treat Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert as a family made me sick to my stomach from time to time, but I pressed on and lived my life regardless. I was attending community college at the time and trying to make something of myself. Unfortunately, due to the high cost of living in our town, as well as the horrible economy nowadays, Woodrow and I were stuck living there. It was simply easier and cheaper for the both of us, even though we had to deal with all the nonsense from Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert. Plus, to tell you guys the truth, we felt like we needed to be around for our father in case things got worse between him and the rest of the family. We didn't want to leave him alone with those three, just to run wild and bleed the man dry of his money. Resources as well, and his sanity. In the time leading up to my father's death, he kept his nose to the grind and kept working hard. He loved his office work and was quite successful, building up a big fortune for himself. Even with Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert continually sucking his resources away from him. I was saddened but not quite surprised when he passed. I was happy Woodrow and I got to enjoy wonderful years with him though. But now, my father, he's gone for good. He's not coming back. I'm confused and scared about the direction of my life, it could take now. Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert are still living in my father's house with me and Woodrow, and Beatrice has been bothering me about the inheritance and how she thinks her, quote, little boys deserve a cut of my father's money. She kept hounding me, so I finally just told her I'd consider cutting them in on the money, just to get her off my case. I don't know if I was telling the truth yet, guys. I mean, come on. What do you really think about all this? Should I give some of my inheritance money to Todd and Gilbert just to get Beatrice off of my back? Well, I was already giving them the remaining 20% of the fortune that was left by my father. But it seems Beatrice's greed is already getting the best of her. I worry this crew of jerks is going to just stop at nothing to pry my dead father's money from his hands. Ugh. I won't let them do that. I can't let them do that. Well, anyways, I'm tired of letting them walk all over me. I could truly use some advice here, like really. And to make matters worse, there's a family function coming up. The whole family's going to meet up at my father's favorite restaurant. Hooters, yeah, for a celebration of his wonderful life. I just hope the meeting goes well and goes smooth. Update number 1. Hello, it's OP back and I'm here for an update. First, I'd like to thank everybody who left kind and supportive comments, as well as all of you who gave thoughtful and constructive advice as well. I truly appreciate your help because I'm feeling so isolated and alone right now, and I truly feel as if I have no other place to turn for help. All of your comments have given me a lot to ponder and think about, that's for sure. The reason I'm here is to give you an update on the family function that we planned at Hooters. If you read my last post, you'll know Hooters was my father's favorite restaurant, and my family had planned to have a celebration dinner at Hooters to reflect my father's long and wonderful life. I hope to have a smooth, peaceful dinner in which I could properly grieve, but I should have known it would all go downhill with Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert at the function. I almost did not even invite those bozos, but I knew they would find out about it some way or the other. Considering me and, Woodrow live with them, we've invited a few family members as some friends of my father, and we wanted to keep the event low-key because Hooters is where my father went to relax. Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert took it upon themselves to invite a whole host of characters, some of who Woodrow and I did not even know. I mean, come on, I felt so disrespected. What relation did some of these people even have to my father? Still, I wanted to keep my cool and have a nice evening, so I proceeded with the dinner and decided to hold my tongue. Well, once the alcohol starts to flow, Beatrice's side of the family starts getting rowdier and rowdier. Todd and Gilbert and a few of his friends got up and started singing and dancing, which completely embarrassed me and Woodrow, considering some of our father's closest friends were sitting there with us, including father's esteemed lawyer and one of his best friends, Theodore Danzig, the finest lawyer in town. Beatrice was doing shots of tequila and getting louder and more boisterous herself. I knew it was only a matter of time before her dark side came out to play. No sooner than I thought this, Beatrice decides to address me in front of everyone, and I quote, It's so cruel of you not to include your stepbrothers and that big sum of money you got from Daddy. After your mother passed away, me and my sons came in and made your dad's life worth living." Woodrow and I were shocked at the audacity. Woodrow actually came forward to my defense, but suddenly Todd and Gilbert each grabbed a handful of buffalo wings from the table and chucked them right into Woodrow's face. I could not believe the rudeness. Woodrow and I were so humiliated, we just decided to walk out of the restaurant. I wanted to leave those clowns with the bill after the stunt they pulled. And if you're wondering, it was boneless chicken. That should be a crime. Update number 2. Hello, I'm back for another update. After the embarrassing fiasco at Hooters, I was livid. I had half a mind to lock the door and not let Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert in. After Woodrow and I left the restaurant, those three stayed out all night partying. Todd and Gilbert woke me up in the middle of the night, showing up at 5 in the morning. They kept drinking beer and blasting Limp Bizkit and Korn at max volume all morning long. I'd finally had enough of their antics, and I decided to contact Theodore Danzig for some legal advice, since he was the one who told me about the inheritance. Apparently, I misunderstood some things at the initial meeting, right? I had not slept much and was grieving intensely over the loss of my father, but Theodore laid it all out straight for me.
"Hey, I saw what happened at Hooters the other night. I hope you're all right. I wanted to tell you that you're the sole inheritor of 80% of your father's property and his whole fortune. You can divide it up however you see fit. You could even give 10% to Woodrow, and I don't know, give the remaining 10% to Todd and Gilbert. That's just an example, though. It's up to you."
I thanked him, and this is just the information I needed. I was really hopeful and happy and wanted to take revenge. This time I had Theodore as my support system. While I was leaving, he told me, and I quote, "I don't know how you deal with those clowns, but if you need any legal help at all, I'm with you. I'm not sure why your father ever went for Beatrice and those brats." Update number 3. Hey, everyone. OP here, and yes, I have another update. So I got the news from Theodore that I'm also in charge of my father's property, which means I'm the owner of the house now. I was totally oblivious at the time when Theodore initially gave me the information regarding the inheritance of my father passing. But now, I've got my head on straight. And I mean business. I was going to give Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert one more chance, but I have to tell you all what happened today. This is a dramatic situation with my supposed family, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. I called a family meeting in the dining room to explain the news, and I had some hesitation about calling on a meeting, considering I could see Todd and Gilbert were both already drunk as skunks. They were blasting some kid favorites, Kid Rock, their favorite rapper, and that was a sure sign that they were wasted. Beatrice had been mixing a few drinks herself, and I knew this meeting could possibly get ugly. But hey, it had to be done. Plus, I had Woodrow backing me up. I told everyone in the room that 10% would be going to Woodrow, and the remaining 10% would be going to Todd and Gilbert.
Well, Beatrice just immediately objected to this, but I looked her right in the eye and told her to shut her trap.
And those words, exactly, I could tell everyone in the room was stunned by my venomous words. I told her that she's begged me for equality. Well, equality was what Todd and Gilbert were getting, 10%, and they can split it equally. So, immediately, Todd, Gilbert, and Beatrice grew into an uproar and began threatening to sue me and sue Woodrow and have us taken to jail and, all this nonsense. So, I just chuckled because I knew Theodore had let me know the law was on my side of the situation. Suddenly, Todd and Gilbert grabbed some hot dogs from the fridge and began throwing them at me and Gilbert. They were throwing the cold meat of the hot dogs with such force that it actually hurt. Beatrice began sobbing and screaming like a child. Todd punched Woodrow in the face, and that's when I've had enough and called the police. Well, guys, Todd was arrested, and I should have had Gilbert and Beatrice arrested as well. Update number 4. Hello, OP's here, and I have another update. Thanks to everybody who kept reading throughout the crazy deal. I could not have done this without the help and advice that you've all provided for me, and your spirit is critical in my time of need. Things got so crazy during the meeting with my family to discuss my inheritance, but I'm proud to tell you that life is finally starting to turn in my favor, it seems. Todd was taken to jail and immediately got bailed out by Beatrice. Gilbert tagged along, of course. They made a mistake leaving the house because while they went to visit the jail to pick up Todd, Woodrow and I called a locksmith to change the locks on the doors of the property. After all, it's my house now, so I make the decisions. When Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert returned, they were demanding to be let inside, demanding to know why their keys didn't work. "Is this some kind of joke, you foul wench?" shouted Todd. "Sorry, I forgot to tell you clowns and missed all the commotion earlier. Since I'm now the legal owner of this household, I get to make the rules and I change the locks. And you have 15 days to vacate the premise and find a different place to live because I'm done with you people." "That'll be easy, you stupid pig. Gilbert and I just got a bunch of money from you," said Todd. "Oh, one more thing. I'm taking back the money. Nothing was signed in the contract, so I can take back everything that you're getting, and you're getting nothing from me. Now leave us alone." Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert sat outside the house for a bit. I gave them some time to sober up a bit and possibly calm down and act like mature adults. Todd asked if he could come back inside and gather some of his stuff. He said they all planned to get a hotel downtown away from us, and I said fine. I did have some hesitation, but I still had some kindness in my heart for these people, as I knew their world and lifestyle were about to turn upside down by a rude awakening. I should have known better. The first thing the 3 jerks did when they returned to the house was walk towards the kitchen and gather booze. At first I thought they were taking it with them, but I noticed they were all chugging alcohol as fast as they could. I told them to stop it right now. Woodrow walked into the kitchen to check on the commotion, and suddenly Todd screamed like a bat out of heck. "I hate you people!" As loud as he could, and then took off his shirt and started pounding his chest like an animal. Woodrow and I were scared. That's when Todd punched Woodrow in the face again, and then Gilbert tried to punch me. But luckily he missed because he's drunk. Woodrow made his way to the phone to call the police yet again, and it was embarrassing having the neighbors see the cops come out twice to arrest someone, but that's just how dysfunctional my family is. The police arrested Todd and Gilbert this time, so at least they had a place to stay for the evening. Beatrice told me and Woodrow to jump off a cliff, and she said she's getting a hotel to stay in after she bailed out Todd and Gilbert from jail. I told her I didn't care what she did and to leave my house. Immediately. It felt quite satisfying to tell that old lady how I truly felt about her. Update number 5. Hello. This is going to be a small and final update, right? I know it's been a while since my last post, but I've simply been busy living the peaceful life I never got to experience until now. Now that Beatrice, Todd, and Gilbert are out of my life for good, I can finally live how I want to live. Woodrow and I are enjoying a nice, peaceful life in an old house. There's some great memories here. Enough great memories with our father to outweigh the bad ones with Beatrice and her 2 rotten sons. I wish Dad was here to live us, with us, seeing us here, happy, peaceful. But if you're wondering what happened to those jerks who ruined the first 30 years of my life, I'll tell you. Beatrice, she's dead. She died in a drunk driving accident, and it's sad, yes, but that's what can happen when one chooses to drive drunk. From what I heard, Todd and Gilbert could not take care of themselves without their mother around to pay for them, and the last I heard, the 2 of them are homeless alcoholics on the street. It's sad that they never got the help they needed, but hey, they made this choice in life. I hope one day they change their path in life, but they still get arrested all the time due to their bad behavior. Anyways, guys, that's it. Thank you for reading and giving the support. I appreciate it. I was rooting for OP, I'll be real with you. I like at the end of the story how OP was able to escape that toxicity and just live a life with Woodrow inside the family home. So guys, I want to know your thoughts about this story. What exactly would you have done if you were facing the predicament that OP was in? I want to know exactly what you would have done to handle these step-siblings and insane mother. So drop it down below, guys. My name is Mr. Reddito, and yes, I narrate these sort of stories every day. And if you like these animated story readings, go ahead, click that subscribe button. You know, there's no telling what type of stories that we're going to read from day to day. It could be cheating stories, inheritance dramas, mother-in-law disputes. I mean, it goes on and on. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Go out there and try something you've always wanted to do. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.